On this episode of Real Estate on the Rocks, we're talking to Borino Borino.
Welcome to Real Estate on the Rocks, where you get top shelf real estate conversations served straight up, never watered down. Here's your host, Dave Snowberger.
All right, here we go. All right, welcome back to Real Estate on the Rocks. Today we've got in the studio Marshall Tucker.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
We've got the butcher himself, James the Butcher Mendez.
What's going on?
And then we've got a special treat for you today. We've got one of my favorite real estate gurus today. He is the FSBO, would you say king?
They call me the FSBO and Expired Guru, yeah.
The FSBO and Expired Guru. Love it. Let's go ahead and get with it today. We've got Borino Borino in the studio. Borino, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm one of those few people like Prince and Madonna. I just use one name because my last name was, European and so unpronounceable. Then I said, fuck it, let's just jet it out.
There you go. All right. So I have a bad habit of calling you Borino, repeating it twice, Borino Borino. And that's how we refer to you around here. Like, did you see Borino Borino's latest video? So I hope you don't mind if any time that annoys you, just tell me to shut it down.
Not at all. Makes me feel important. Come on.
It's so important we called your name twice.
There you go.
Cool, man. Well, let's get to it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you've been in the business for about 20 years or so. You're considered really kind of the Tony Robbins of the FSBO world.
Yeah, I've been called the Tony Robbins of real estate because a lot of my message has that undertone of inspiration and passion and good positive energy and good vibe, because it's so important. As you know, Dave, this business can beat you up so fast, so hard, and it's easy to get down and out and feel kind of deflated and miserable. So a lot of what I inject is that sense of, you can do this. It's doable. I mean, I did it. Anybody can.
Absolutely. We did want to get something out of the way because I thought it was funny that your first client was your mother-in-law.
First student, yes. Oh,
First student, sorry. Did I read that right? We were kind of looking at that. I was like, I couldn't imagine with my future mother-in-law trying to really show her any benefits of anything. She probably would just shut it down. But tell me a little bit about that.
Dave, you talk about pressure, right? I'm like, right. If my system doesn't work, I'm host. That's trouble.
Yeah, right.
So, well, I came to the United States from Czechoslovakia. As you can tell by the accent, it's not Scottish, as some people think. It's Czechoslovakian. I was an actor and I was a television producer in Czechoslovakia doing movies and television. Then I got in trouble with the communist government and I said, forget it. We're out of here. So I packed my things, went to Los Angeles, did the acting a little bit, did some movies and television and some theater. But it was a very different business, and because of my language barrier, if you think my English is bad now, you should have heard me. You guys remember the movie Borat? Remember Borat?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I sounded like. That was me. I am not joking. Yes, Semash, you want to buy a house? Good. It's good. Okay.
I love it.
That was me back then. So acting, not so great. So I had a second brilliant idea. This is, remember, 1989, interest rates 13, 14%, about 40. Anybody that long in the business, you guys?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No.
Okay. Well, you look too young, Dave, anyway. So, but maybe some of you guys watching it or listening to this can remember. So it was a rough time to be a real estate agent. But because I didn't know any better, didn't have any other skills, I'm like, well, let's just see what happens. I got a free school. How bad is that? Can't be that bad. And then I'm going to make 6% out of every transaction. I had my little calculator. And I was calculating Mercedes in 6 months, my own house in 12 months, and fancy Armani suits and all that. And this is the part where a lot of these trainers and coaches tell you how they crushed it their first year and how they were awesome. 2 years into the business, I became homeless. I was renting a little apartment. It was actually just a one room of a house in Downey, California, right by the freeway. And the financial situation got so bad, I got so off track that the lady who was really nice, the owner, just said, I can't keep you here. Pack your shit and go. So I had a big old Cadillac DeVille. This was a monstrosity. I called it the rust bucket, giant big Cadillac. And that became my home for a while. There was a liquor store in Pico Rivera, California, where I used to park it at night. And I would sleep in the car. And there were several times where I'm like, this really doesn't make sense. I should get my act together and get a real job, as many people were advising me. And you know how even when things go really bad, and many of you probably had some tough time, not like me, but I'm sure you had your crisis or your share of difficulties and challenges. There was always that part of me that just said, stick with it. It's going to be all right. We're going to turn things around somehow. I didn't know how, But there was that part that somehow kept pushing me forward. And it's like that old saying goes, when a student is ready, when it's really ready, the teacher appears. And I was at that point really ready. And there were several people who appeared in my life. One of them was an agent named Art Scott, who was a Remax agent who was crushing it with expired listings. And he says, dude, instead of this door knocking and cold calling and all that stuff that I was doing, focus on people who are already in the process doing business now. And that was kind of the prerequisite to the whole system that I built, because Art's approach was really simple. He was just on the phone like a machine for 6 hours a day calling expired listings. And he paid well, he was making money, but I felt this could be expanded. And that's how that whole system that now we are on the 5th generation of the Expired Plus was born. And I implemented it in 10 months. I bought my own condo. I got my Mercedes, and I took my now wife to Italy, to Venice, Italy on vacation. So there's a happy ending to that story. But the reason I'm telling you all this is because my mother-in-law first became my assistant, then got her license and wanted to become an agent. And this was because before I had the book and the system and the videos and all that. And she says, teach me. And I'm like, hey, I'm not so sure that's a good idea, because if it doesn't work, there'll be a big trouble in the family. But I did. I put some notes together. Hey, send this letter, and this is the script I used to use, and here's the approach, and go see what happens. She went, and I think it was like 4 months or 6 months later, she shows up in a brand new, nice white car, and she's all happy and smiling. I'm like, the worst is over. I think she got a listing or two. And she comes back with a story how she, within a few months, became the agent of in the entire office, agent of the month, got a bunch of listings. And she said, write this. This is a book. Write a book, put it together, teach people. This is really followable. This is applicable. This is doable. This is not too complicated or too expensive or too difficult. So I did. I wrote the first Expired Plus, then Expired Plus 2.0, started coaching people. Agents would start coming to me. Hey, how did you do this? What do you do here? And we kind of expanded, which is now an entire systems that folks can implement. But here's the cool thing. I'm not here to sell you guys anything. I don't have a big, like, go to this URL and buy my shit. I mean, if you want, you can. But the point of my message is this. Just like I started with Expireds with no system, no fancy brochures, no letters, just with a business card and my goofy accent, anybody can do this. Because underneath all these systems and all this approach is one human being helping another human being. And if you just get that, the rest you can figure out. So that's the nutshell of the story.
Perfect. Well, let's segue into that right there. Why do you think, with everybody that you've helped in the business, whether it be clients or really kind of students, on the student side of this, why do you think that some students are able to do this, some students aren't? What do you think the disconnect is there of the students that can't do it with the exact same system or the exact same disadvantages or advantages or whichever else? What is it? What's the reason our failure rate is so high at that 88%?
That is a brilliant question. That is a really good question. No simple answer there, but I can share with you what I have found first, going through the process myself of the struggles and difficulties to a good life. And now I've had, 30, 40,000 students. There are certain similarities. You start seeing certain patterns. And one of the things I do for folks who come on board and get the Expired Plus is I do a one-on-one session with them. We record the session, we send them the video. And because I've done thousands of these, I can see the patterns and I can see the signs. And I can tell you within 2 or 3 minutes, this one's got it, this one is not going to be here 6 months from now. And what I've noticed is it is not the level of skill. You can develop skill, how you communicate and the process and all that is learnable. What's missing and what I think makes a big difference are several things. One, the right mindset. And I know this word has been abused to death, but it really is the foundation of the success. Because if somebody goes in, and not just with expireds, but in this business in general, with the fear, with hesitation, where they don't trust themselves, where they're not confident enough, where they go in thinking, I don't think this is going to work for me. Of course it's not going to work. But I mean, if you look at it from a perspective, I was at the dentist yesterday. I hate dentists. That's like my kryptonite. I am freaked out over dentists. So you can imagine the process I go through until I found my Dr. Lee, who is, I think, the best in the world. Imagine he would come to work in the morning going, I don't know if this is going to work. Like he has these tools, he's standing right over me going, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. I'd be like,
great analogy. Yeah.
I'd be out of that chair in no time. I want my dentist to be 100% confident, 100% skilled to get the job done. I don't really care how he's going to get it done. I just want to make sure he's going to do a good job. And I want to make sure he knows what he's doing and he's getting rid of my problem. The end. And that's exactly what Dr. Lee does. Now he does it in a very comforting way where I trust him. I believe that what he does is the best approach to this. If you guys as agents can take the same mindset, and I'm not saying you need to have all the answers. God knows it's impossible. This business has become so complex that it's not possible. Plus, it's changing all the time. It is more of that fortitude of deep inside trusting yourself, where you say, I got this. These sellers are in good hands with me. I can do a good job for them. They are lucky to have me because I have integrity. I have passion. I am positive. I have energy, and I'm willing to do what it takes to serve them well. The mechanics, the technicalities, the legalities, you can figure out. But it is the mindset of there is plenty. I mean, let me give you another example. You guys remember 2007, 2008? Rough time in real estate, right?
Rough time, right.
Rough time. Did you know that even in those rough times, there were over 4 million transactions closed? 4 million homes sold. Now, I'm not no math wizard, but there's a lot of business, even things go really bad.
Yeah.
This year, we're projecting what, 5.4, 5.5, somewhere there. There's plenty of business all around you. So start with the right mindset. There is plenty, and I can do this. I'm reading a great book called Everything is Figuratable. And I love that title because everything in this business you can figure out. How do I get leads? You can figure it out. You can learn. Go on YouTube. Jesus, you can learn how to build rockets, literally rocket science on YouTube for free. So this bullshit of I don't have the information, I don't know how is nonsense. You can figure it out. If you go to my channel on YouTube, we have what, 500 videos there, how to do this stuff, all free. You don't have to pay, you don't have to buy anything. You're going to figure it out. I get emails every week from people saying, I just watched your videos. I got 5 listings this month. Yay. So not knowing is just a stupid excuse. It really is the mindset. There is plenty. I can figure it out. I can learn. The stuff I don't know, I can learn. But it starts with that mindset of, I got this. Other agents are doing it. I mean, look around. Check your MLS. New listings popping every day. Agents making money, driving nice cars, living in nice homes. Why not you? The real big barrier, the honest barrier, is really the mindset and the right set of beliefs. That's what was holding me back for years too. It came from my parents. You know, I grew up in a family where we had plenty. My parents, both very successful actors, very successful. My dad was a producer, writer. My mom is a singer. We did fine. And yet, from day one, since I was a little baby, they kept telling us, money is hard to come by. Why? Because they were conditioned by their parents who grew up during the war. So they passed it on to us, not because they were scribbles or they wanted to hold on, but because they thought that's a good advice to give to our kids so they do well in life. And the exact opposite was happening. Because just like your operating system you have on your phone or on your computer, if this becomes your operating belief, money is hard to come by, it's too difficult, there's too much competition, I don't have what it takes. And underneath it all is a core belief of, I'm not good enough. It's not going to work. You can push through with discipline temporarily. You can force your way into some business short term, but long term, there's no way it's going to work without the right mindset. So my recommendation, do what I did. Find the people who are doing it. Read good books. Associate with the right people. Feed your mindset. It's just like a muscle. You got to work it. The input's going to equal the output. My grandfather used to say, you cannot cook a steak if you bring a chicken to the kitchen. What you put in your head, the podcast, like you guys watching this, listening to this, is the right thing to do. You got to feed yourself that good stuff. It's not going to happen by default. On contrary, Jesus, we're going into elections. Look at all the negativity. Look at all the screaming and yelling and shit-slinging that's going on. You got to be very careful what you're going to put in because that's exactly what you're going to get out. The mindset really is critical. It really is so important. So the right beliefs, the right focus, the right expectations, and then from there, the right action will lead you in the right direction. Is that helpful?
Fantastic advice. No, it's very helpful, and we really subscribe to the same methods you just described right there. So it's always great to get the validation from a pro like yourself. So a lot of this stuff that we teach around here as well to just, you know, my guys on my team and a lot of the people that do pay attention to us, we have maybe a smaller little presence than you do. But that's what we just teach everybody is to really focus. So follow one course until successful. And while doing so is basically whatever you feed your mind or whatever you put into it is what you'll get out of it. So love the validation there. Certainly appreciate it. When did you make that shift from, you know, being a realtor? You don't sell anymore, correct?
I do not.
Okay.
What happened was the business was going really well, thank God. You know, I figured out how to attract what's called high conversion leads. Those are leads where you don't need to have thousands of them to convert. So I started focusing on new expired listings, old expired listings, for sale by owners, sphere of influence, open houses. That was about all. That was the big chunk of my business came from these sources, and that's what I teach today. But there came that point where it was either really expand the office, grow a team, get buyer's agent assistants, or even open my own brokerage, or do something else. You know, I kind of plateaued. And that was the time when my mother-in-law came and other people were coming to me. And suddenly I felt this fire that I felt at the beginning in real estate. You guys remember when you got your license and you're all excited, your first open house, first car pulls up, I'm like, oh shit, you're like happy and freaked out at the same time.
Right.
So when I started coaching people how to do this, and they would come to me and say, I got my first listing, and it felt so good. I was so passionate about it that it just snowballed into this whole mission for me to not just help a bunch of agents, which I love, and as you can tell, I'm really passionate about, but also to make our industry a little better. Unfortunately, we don't have the best reputation out there, and a lot of it is our own fault. So my mission is to help anybody who raises their hand and says, I want to do well and I want to make a lot of money, because that's the number one reason you're here. The mission is important, helping people, communities, and all that. But remember, you guys are running a for-profit business. And my mission number one is to help you make a lot of money, because you cannot help this world if you're broke and if you're miserable. So that's number one. And I became really passionate about it. Started the Borino production, you know, first just out of my house, just a little side thing just to help people. And now we have an organization with several employees and trainers and coaches, and we produce videos and books and podcasts and all kinds of cool stuff to get you guys on track, or to help you stay on track and grow as an agent.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Why did you pick that route? I know they're high conversion leads, like you just stated. A lot of people, when you come into the business, I like, for me, when I came into the business, for sale by owners, I had heard of them. However, as soon as whoever was describing a for sale by owner to us walked out of the room, the other agents would really like, ooh, you don't go with for sale by owners. I mean, it was just kind of like the big bad wolf was on the other side of the door. When did you realize, I think for sale by owner is like the number one low hanging fruit in our business. Totally. I convert a lot of for sale by owners over the past few years. Majority of my listings come from FSBOs. And by the way, I love FSBO Borino. That's very intelligent.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
And so I just, when did you realize that was really kind of that little honeypot for you, and that was a teachable system to other people? I mean, when did you get over that and try to put that fear away for the other agents? Because everybody's afraid of FSBOs, in my opinion. You know, those are people with their hands up saying like, I need to sell my house.
Yeah. And rightly so, because FSBO can be abrupt and rude and difficult and combative and all those things. It's possible. Same with expired listings. But here is the rule I implemented in my business, and now I teach you guys, is do not ever let your emotions control your income. You cannot let your feelings determine what you will and will not do. Now, what I teach and what I help you do is not something unethical, illegal, or immoral, but it is difficult. Now, here's the thing. You guys don't hate for sale by owners. You don't hate calling expired listings. You hate not being good at it. You hate the fact that you suck, because when you're good at it, you're going to realize that after this big barrier that these people put up are just people who are very often scared. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They're uncertain, and there's a lot of fear, a lot of hesitation. So once you recognize that they're just going at a problem, trying to solve it their own way. I mean, think about it. Wouldn't you like to save $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 if you could? I would. From their perspective, what they're trying to do makes perfect sense. So what I teach first is shift to their perspective. Same with expired listings. They told their neighbors, they told their family, they told their friends, we're moving to Florida. We're selling our house. We're going. We're excited. Then they go through the process, interviewing agents, signing the paperwork. It's all very confusing, very difficult, but they go through this. Then they repair the dripping faucets and paint the living room, replace the carpet, put money into the house. Then they wait for the first open house. 3 people show up. They're like, ooh. 4 months later, 6 months later, the agent disappears. He does the Houdini on them. And now the barrage of agents, this tidal wave of agents start hitting them and telling them all kinds of scripts, and they all sound the same. They all want the same. Wouldn't you be pissed off? Wouldn't you be freaking out? Like, what the hell is going on? Wow, the agent still has a sign up and a lockbox on the front door in many cases. You know what I mean? So shift the perspective first. Second, what I offer you guys is statistics. And here is one that you should remember. Nationwide, I interviewed a CEO of the company called FSBO. It is one of the largest portals for sale by owners. They've been tracking about 93,000 for sale by owners nationwide for the last 4 years. You ready for this? 71% of FSBOs end up listing with an agent. Now, if that doesn't spell opportunity, I don't know what would. So what I offer is, you have agents come to me a lot. I need help with leads. I need more leads. I don't have enough leads. I'm like, bullshit. You have plenty of leads. If you go on Zillow, if you go on Craigslist, you can have FSBOs, what, 20, 30? In my area, I checked yesterday, was like 97 for sale by owners. Just in my area. So statistically, that's about 60, 70 listings if you weed out all the agents who pretend to be sellers and all that nonsense. That's a lot of opportunities. Why not go after those? That's, like you said very accurately, that's a low-hanging fruit. Expired listings. Those people who tried to sell October, November, December, guess what? Spring market is just around the corner. These people will be back on the market. Why not talk to them? Why not talk to somebody who's already in the process? So what you're lacking is skill. And what you're lacking is a system. Those are the two things. Agents get stuck on these two. They don't have the skill to communicate with these people, to approach them with what I call the high status agent approach, where you're cool, you're confident, but you also come with compassion. And what they don't have is a system. Initially, most of these people will be, I'm just looking responses. But very often, as you know, the no at the beginning turns into not right now, turns into maybe, turns into yes, come on down, let's talk. So that's what I teach, because in my opinion, without spending a lot of money building complicated systems or getting third party where you're depending on Zillows and God knows who, you control your business, because you can control how many people you reach out to, how many people you talk to, how many people you follow up with. And based on that, you can construct a business plan to project that out of 10 for sale by owners you're going to put on your system, you can end up with 2 listings. Now, of course, your numbers will be different, but you're in the ballpark.
Right. I find in FSBOs that the most obstinate people, actually, over time, I was a little bit intimidated by the for sale by owner. But then after I converted so many of them, I started kind of keeping track of my numbers, and not only the numbers, but really kind of like the attitude of the for sale by owner. And I realized that the more obstinate they were towards my pitch or my presentation, they would be easier to convert. Do you ever find that?
I find the same thing. And I also noticed that almost everybody makes 2 mistakes. Rookies, meaning people who don't do FSBOs well. And tell me if this has been your experience. They go too soon for the appointment, for the listing appointment, which is kind of like, real estate is like dating. 2 strangers have to meet and build a relationship before they put a ring on a thing.
It's always told me that. I'm going for the kiss too soon.
Right? Yeah. Well, I say for the bedroom, but same concept.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would be like 10 minutes having drinks with a girl and says, hey, baby, come to my bedroom. I want to show you something. That's what the agents do. That's what you guys do. And no wonder they say no. They freak out. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of repetition where you create familiarity. They're familiar with you. You create comfort that builds trust, that builds connection. Then you can position you as the authority. And then you move to the bedroom, so to speak.
Correct.
Same with expired listings. It's a process. I was entertained. I watched, I'm not going to mention the guy's name. He's been around for a long time, real estate trainer, who says, call every lead you have. And those that don't want to list in the next 2 weeks, you throw in the garbage. I'm like, tell that to everybody else. My students, come, let me show you a better one.
Yeah.
Let everybody else try that. So you go for appointment too soon and you give up too soon. Those are the 2 big, big mistakes. You're leaving tons of money on the table.
Yeah.
What
Sounds like that guy's.
Dave? What are your conversion rate? I'm just curious. Let's say out of 10 for sale by owners that you put on a follow-up, how many would you expect to turn into listings?
I would take half of them.
Dude, that's good.
Yeah, I'd take half of them at least. And so it's really what we found works best for me, right? So I've tried to teach this to Marshall. I've tried to teach this to James and some other people we have in our organization. Yeah. It's really about the follow-up, and it's about planting seeds along the way. I never go for the kiss. I just want to have a normal conversation and really kind of, and then at the end, just kind of do that. And just let me ask you, I have to ask, why are you choosing to sell it by yourself? Now I know their motivation, right? I never ask anybody to call me. I always tell them, I always set it up for the next call. Well, hey, next week about 2 o'clock, I'm gonna call you back just to see how things are going. And if we have anybody for you, I'll set that appointment up. If I have any buyers for you, I'll set that appointment up and we'll get that handled. But I'll give you a call at 2 o'clock next Thursday. Does that work for you? and they just want you off the phone at this point. They'll say yes. However, I keep my promise and I call at 2:00, the next week. And so when I do and they don't answer, they leave a message, I also send a text or a video text saying whichever, right? And so we've also tried the video text approach on the new stuff as well. And I am getting callbacks on those. So that's working a little bit better than just the blind phone call where they'll take our call and then they kind of dismiss us when they find out we're an agent. And a certain brokerage has called them 100 times already that morning, 100 different people. I try to take a different approach, and I just want to know more about the property. And we have buyers in the area, which isn't lying by any means, right? Because we have a pool of buyers, and we all have a constant flow of leads that are looking in this area. We do a fair amount of business, so we always have people looking in our area. So it's not a lie. It's not being disingenuous by trying to get in the door to see it, but I genuinely want to see the property because it's my responsibility as an agent to know the inventory. I know what's on MLS, and I need to know the FSBO inventory as well. What time works best for you? This is usually the second call. What time works best for you? Are you 2:00 or 4:00, right? And it's a question. They get to pick one or the other. It's like, that doesn't work for me. How about 6? And I'm like, bam, every time, right? And so that just goes into questions, right? So it's just really about the working up to that. And I realized, what was the average, Marshall? Like 7 times? I'm using my hands a lot.
Yeah.
It was about 7 times, 7 points of contact where we actually they started expecting our phone calls, right? And so they expecting the information or sending them things, always giving them something of value. Like, did you see that 3 other homes in the neighborhood went under contract? I wonder why yours isn't going under contract. It probably just lacks exposure, and it's planting those seeds along the way, right? And then at some point in time, you can tell, and it's typically when we're at the house and I have my little signature red folder I carry with me, and they're in their mind wanting to know what's in the red folder. Remember that movie with Brad Pitt? Like, what's in the box, man? It's kind of the same thing with the red folder. Like, what's in the red folder? And what's in the red folder is all the stats on the neighborhood. Let's sit down real quick and talk about it, And so we've got a higher conversion rate than I would say most when it comes to for sale by owners.
Dude, 50% is brilliant. You're doing it right.
So I appreciate that.
Really
And I'd love to go back and anybody that I can more than likely prove the numbers, because we track every single number we do. And then we get so busy, we stop calling FSBOs. That's been part of our problem. What do you see with that? The really ups and downs of this business that it provides, because we work so hard for a couple months getting the leads, and then we work so hard working those leads, and then we work so hard on the closings, and then at the end of it, we don't have any business left.
Yeah,
I see advice
that a lot. Yeah, a lot of my students go through it. Remember, I said mindset is number 1. Skill is number 2, and systems is number 3. And you need to build systems, because the first thing that agents drop, logically, they want to get paid. They want to serve their clients. They get a few listings, maybe a couple of buyers that they need to put on a contract. First thing that goes out the door is lead generation. Second thing that goes out the door is lead follow-up.
Yep.
And then the yo-yo kicks in.
Yeah.
So there are a few things that I would suggest. First, prepare for it. Plan in advance. No matter how rudimentary, basic your plan is, have something in place. There are several things that I suggest. I train my students. Is 1, get in a habit of planning your days. Make your calendar your ally, because it gives you a perspective. And I plan 7 days and I plan a day. I have a 7-day strategic plan where I just kind of have a bigger picture of what I want to accomplish in those 7 days. And then I slot time block my day how I want it to go. I use, let's see if I have a copy here I can show you. I use a paper calendar. Yeah, I have one here. So I can show you what I like to use. I even do drawings and stuff, but I'm very diligent about pre-planning my day. And it's also on this metaphysical level. And I don't want to get all like new agey on you, California. But you somehow send a request to the universe how you want things to go. And very often I can tell you that it happens in a good way.
Right.
That way. I should start a church of Borino. Oh, hallelujah.
There you go. There you go.
So plan your day. That's number 1. Be prepared. Put in a time block for fire time, putting out fires. That means if your seller freaks out, the property doesn't appraise, or the inspection came back and the house needs to be demolished or whatever else, you have time. But here's also a cool part about that. If you put, let's say, and that varies based on how busy you are and how many fires do you need to put out. But let's say you put 90 minutes every day to deal with crisis. Now your day doesn't get derailed in the morning. Now you still get your stuff done, your prospecting, lead generation, follow-up, and all that. And you have time blocked. But also you, based on Pareto principle, don't give all that time to put out that fire. You have 90 minutes. So you got to get your shit together and get it done. Here's the best part. Not every day you will have crisis. Not every day will there be a fire to be put out. Now you have extra 90 minutes that you can devote to listen to podcasts like this one, educating yourself, doing something productive with the extra time you just earned yourself. So that's one. Two, get help. This is one of the biggest mistakes. I made tons of great mistakes, some grandiose, epic mistakes in my life and in my business. But this one is up there. Hire help soon, early. Start early. Get a part-time agent for maybe part-time assistant for 2 hours a day. Even if it's virtual, I'm not a big fan of virtual. I would get somebody physical for a couple hours a day to help you with the most mundane, tedious, boring, make copies, get paperwork done, deliver log boxes, all that stuff. It still needs to be done, but not by you, because friends, if you do the job of an assistant, you're getting paid the salary of an assistant. And that's no way to run a business, not to mention it's not fun. So get help early so you can free your mental energy and your time to focus on stuff that produces dollars, which is really just 5 things. Getting new leads, following up with leads you have, working your sphere of influence, presenting, studying the market, doing presentations. That's the bulk of your business needs to be focused on those things. And if you have somebody you can hand things off to, you're going to keep that business somewhat steady. It's never going to be perfect. It should go up. There'll be some waves, but not that many. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest things that I've always said is really kind of, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant.
Yeah.
And so you get bogged down with that. We've certainly all made mistakes coming out of this. So Marshall, what do you got?
Borino, you said Art Scott was kind of a big influence early in your career. I'm just kind of curious, who else has been a big influence on your career? Whose content are you taking in?
Oh, good question. Early on, remember I said my biggest hurdle and obstacle was mindset. And I had the privilege to meet Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins had a huge impact on my life. He was the one that kind of took my brain and fixed the stuff in it, where I realized it's not out there, it's not the economy, it's not the market, it's not the sellers, it's not the competition, it's really all within. And I heard it and I logically understood it, but I didn't internalize it. It's like one of those things you hear,
right,
but you don't do anything about. So it was Tony who kind of brought these practical steps, and I read the Awaken the Giant Within, I did the Personal Power, and I went to the Unleash, the Personal Power workshop, where you do the firewalk and all that. So yeah. Tony was a huge influence on me. There is a guy named Frank Kern, who I consider one of the brightest marketers and advertising guys in the world currently living. And Frank, thank you. Frank, I had a privilege to spend time with him and hung out with him and all that. So as far as marketing and the strategies you see in my systems, a lot come from that. And I became also a big student of psychology and influence, because I need to admit something to you guys. I suck at selling. I'm no good at it. I had 3 jobs, sales jobs. My first one was for Radio Shack. Are they still around, or did they close out?
I think they're very scattered. Yeah,
they're scattered, right? Yeah, that's because I left. They could not survive.
Shut them down.
So that was my first official sales job, was at Radio Shack. And in Radio Shack, we had a quota how many batteries you're supposed to sell with each item you sell, like toys and whatever electronics. And I never met that quota, so got fired. Second job was a telemarketing company. There I lasted for 24 hours, didn't make a single sale, gone. Third, of course, was real estate, where I became homeless 2 years into the business. So as far as selling, no good. One of those, close them and use scripts and do the traditional selling, press hard, never resonated with me. So I started studying neuro-linguistic programming, Marshall Silver, hypnosis. I was always trying to figure out how human mind works. Like, what is it when somebody says, Marshall, we like you. We want to do business with you. How does that trigger? And can that be influenced but not manipulated? Because we can manipulate people. In short term, sometimes that works. But I was always curious, is there a way to do it organically where people don't feel pressured or manipulated? They follow, like you pull them in.
Right. Well, we do things like shake our head, yes, to bring people in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so the stuff I teach today, I have a system called Core Influence where we use these methods. It's not very complicated. Many of you guys are already using it naturally, probably subconsciously. But what I wanted to see is, can I develop it into a system that I can teach someone who can then deploy it and use it effectively. And, you know, I have a system, like we're in the middle of a boot camp where I teach people how to do a good listing presentation. A lot of these elements are built into that. How to build status and trust, how to ask the right questions, why compliance can be triggered within seconds. And the example, for example, I use is when you get pulled over by a cop, and because you were speeding, you're sitting there going, oh shit, here he comes. The cop doesn't show up with an iPad and does a presentation, who he is and the powers he has. He doesn't have to show you years, how long he's been in the service, right? None of that. It happens very quickly, it's very automatic, and you are in compliance almost instantly. So using some of these methods, you can develop the same methods with your sellers, with your prospects. And a lot of it comes from 3 C's. I will teach you real quick a formula called the 3C formula, which is the secret to building trust, connection, and guidance and compliance. Confidence, competence, compassion. Confidence, competence, compassion. You combine these 3, about 1/3 each, you have the magic recipe. You use these, you deploy these in your prospecting, in your communication, when somebody comes to your open house, when you talk to for sale by owner, when you follow up with lead, or when you get an inbound referral call. Competence, confidence, compassion. Because here's what happens. Confidence means you trust yourself. Just like the example I told you earlier about the dentist. I want him to feel solid. I want him to feel like I know what I'm doing. Competence means you know what you're doing. You know the business, you know the market, you know how to price the listing right. So if the seller says we want 100,000 more, you not only know how to handle it, although I'm not a big fan of handling objections, but you know why. You understand the market, you understand the dynamics and the numbers, you're an expert. And compassion means it's more than just a commission. You genuinely care about the person. You're really curious about them. You're authentic. You're not faking it. This is not like a fake script or pushy tactic. You genuinely want to see, like, who are these people? What are they trying to do? Why does that matter to them? How much does that matter? And can I help them? And you are perfectly okay with some yes, some maybe later, and some no. There is no attachment. There is no neediness. There is no low status neediness, because neediness equals weakness. And we are pre-built in our neurobiology, in our wiring, that's about 285 million years old, to pull away from neediness, weakness, or aggression, because we both perceive both as threats. So you do the 3C formula, that alone, you will see a noticeable difference in the way people respond to you. Competence, confidence, and compassion.
Fantastic. James, what do you got over there?
Yeah, I know you've worked with a lot of agents, especially some of the newer ones. What are some of the biggest things that you see them not doing, and then like tips on how to get, really in motion, especially in the first, 6 months? Because I know that's the biggest. I know a lot of people when I first started didn't even make it 6 months. They were either switched to different brokers or completely out of the business. There's very few agents that when I joined Keller Williams and my Ignite class that are still selling real estate today.
Yeah, and it's sad, but that's the reality. Just like with restaurants, a lot of good restaurants open, boom, they close down. Agents come, they leave. Breaks my heart to see somebody young, enthusiastic. Like, I remember those days, dude. I still remember I was in an open house helping another agent when the manager of the office where I was taking the training drives up and says, "You passed, you got your license." Dude, I thought that was the happiest day of my life. I made it, yeah. And I was already counting millions. So holding on to that flame and to that passion and that enthusiasm and those beautiful expectations of how you can architect your life is probably the most important thing you can do, James.
Okay.
Is to keep feeding that fire where you don't focus on, and this is the mistake that agents make. I mean, we make many, and I am the world champion of fuck-ups and mistakes. Trust me. I can write a book that'd be this thick. But here's what I know. If you let that flame douse, if you let it die, it's over. And the best way to keep feeding that flame is you focus less on what is right now, where you are right now, and you start shifting more on, this is where I'm going, and this is why it matters, and this is what I want from life, and this is what I want from my business. And maybe it's going to take more than 6 months. Now, the methods I teach tend to kick in faster than 6 months, but yeah, you're building a skill, you're building a business. Let me put it in perspective for you. I have we're going a little over time. Is it okay?
Yeah, we're fine.
Is it cool?
Yeah.
Are you guys enjoying it?
Yeah.
I don't want to bore you. Are you guys awake, everybody watching it?
That's the thing is
Taking
we're
notes.
sponges. The great thing
All
about
right.
this podcast
So
is we
let
get to
me
take all
put
this
things in perspective. We have a friend in San Diego whose husband just became recently a neurosurgeon. That's the guy who operates on your brain.
Yeah.
It took him 18 years, college, university, undergrad, grad school, residency, 18 years. He's going to make, his starting salary is $321,800. That's what he's going to make. It took him
Good start.
18 years to get to this point. With persistence, there was a time where he was in a basement in the little tiny, not even an office, there was no window or anything, cleaning instruments, medical instruments. He was not locked up in an office. He was already operating on people in his mind. Now, 18 years. He has $310,000 in student loan. Howard Medical School, $70,000 a year. It's going to take him about 10 years to pay this off, maybe more.
Yeah.
I have students. Now, I can't promise anything to anyone, but let me ask you guys. James, you, do you think if you stay focused, if you keep building your skills, building your systems, working on your mindset, within the next 5 years, you can reach this level? Is that possible?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Marshall, do you know people, agents, who reach this level of income or more?
I'm sure.
Now, here are two biggest differences. How much in student loans are you going to have?
None.
Zero. So you're ahead $310,000 right there. Here's the
Already.
biggest. Here's one more.
Plus interest.
Yeah, exactly. If you mess up, nobody dies.
True.
If he messes up, somebody's going to die. You talk about pressure.
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's the difference. Now, the way he got to this level, this was his big dream. And he's super happy and he's really good at what he does. He kept thinking, talking, planning, architecting his life for 18 years to get to this point. You can be there in 5 years. If you're willing to do not what's comfortable, what's convenient, what's safe, what's necessary. And to answer your simple question, why do most agents don't succeed? They do what's comfortable, what's safe, not what's necessary. They still run their business based on preferences and emotions. If my friend ran this plan based on preferences and emotions, he would not be in the basement cleaning medical tools, surgical tools. He would bail. He's stuck with it. So the question I have for you is, do you honestly feel 100% convinced you're willing to do what it takes to succeed? And I tell you, our natural response is jumping and says, yeah, fuck yeah. I will see by the results, not by your words. Because if your results and the direction you're taking every day, the steps you're taking every day, will clearly indicate which way you're headed for the success and awesome life or for mediocrity. You see, it's not even failure that's the worst. It's the fucking Toyota Corolla that's the worst. Where you're going to get stuck at about $80,000 a year. Where the house where you're going to live is just okay. Where the car is just okay. The vacation, Atlantic City. You know what I mean? It's just okay.
Yeah.
It's not miserable. You're not homeless like I was. But it's not what you're dreaming about. So for you and everybody else, dream big. If you're going to do this, it's going to be hard. But here's what I know. I served in the military. And we had a crazy sergeant named Sergeant Petrov. And I learned a couple of simple things from him. One was, be ready, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be hard regardless. If you're gonna work for some 9 to 5 stupid job in a cubicle, it's gonna suck because you're gonna spend 5 days working for some idiot telling you what to do on projects you have no interest in, just to collect a paycheck so you can have Saturday and Sunday for yourself to enjoy with friends and family. That sucks. Or you're going to build your business, you're going to be a total rock star making all kinds of money, and it's going to be hard. There'll be a lot of rejection, there'll be a lot of setbacks, there'll be a lot of stress, and it's going to suck. You got to pick which suck you want, which hard you're willing to put up with. There is no easy. Easy does not exist. Being mediocre is fucking hard because you know what the hardest emotion you're going to deal with is regret. I could have, I should have. That is the hardest. I take failure any day because I can say, fuck, at least I gave my best. It didn't work. I failed miserably, but at least I can learn something, put the pieces together. Let's try again. But if you just give up, you just go, fucking. The regret, looking back 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I could not look myself in the mirror for that. So my recommendation is dream big. Remind yourself constantly why you're in this, because God knows this business can suck the life out of you, and it is stressful and difficult. But I'm here to tell you, after being at this for over 20 years, it can be also the most inspiring, most amazing, most rewarding business you can be in. With so much freedom, nothing comes even close.
Absolutely. I wanted to, you are right. We're getting close to the end here. One question I always ask is to give advice. Our show is really geared at those new agents coming in or agents returning to the business or not doing so hot in the business. That's who we really care about and want to bring along. You just answered all that. So let's go ahead. Yeah, that's completely awesome. And I've got 2 pages of questions that every time that I'm about to answer.
Scratch.
Yeah, you addressed it already. So this has been the easiest interview I've gone through yet, so really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and go with, to wrap it up. Give us, let me see here. Give us a book. How about that? So a lot of new agents are out there. They're always looking for a book or a podcast or a system. Tell us how to find you also. So sorry, 2-part question. But really just, where do we go find all your content? How do we get in touch with Borino?
Easiest would be, we have a big channel on YouTube with a lot of good content. We produce 2, 3, 4 videos a week. We add new content constantly. If you just go on YouTube and search Borino, check out my channel. Would love for you to get the resources there. There's lead generation, dialogues, all the good stuff that will help you in your business mindset. It's all there. So start there. Start your journey there. And as far as how would I summarize one book? There is no one.
Yeah.
Based on where you are, it can be mindset. Now for mindset, people like Tony Robbins, there's a great book by Jen Sincero called You're a Badass.
Yep.
So if you struggle with self-confidence, if you feel like you really need a boost, if you just need that juice, read that book, You're a Badass by Jen Sincero. Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, phenomenal book. Good old Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Although he has another great book that I even enjoyed, got more value than Think and Grow Rich, although that is a brilliant book. It's called Outwitting the Devil. Yeah. And yes, there are some religious undertones, but if you push those aside, there's a lot of gems and a lot of insight that this man wrote in this book. It's called Outwitting the Devil. Read that one. There's a whole bunch. I occasionally post the books I have on my Kindle that I enjoy reading, so I might share those with you. There are about 20 of them there. A lot of them on mindset.
Have you heard the audio version of Outwitting the Devil?
It's an old book, so I don't know if there's an audio version. I have it on Kindle.
There is. They said I've only got a couple pieces of it. I didn't get to listen to the entire thing, but the voice of the devil has that deep kind of tone.
Really?
That sets
James
it really
Earl
well.
Jones voice.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah. Check it out if you get a chance. It's definitely
I gotta check that out.
Listen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but you have a Facebook group called, very similar to our little podcast name as Real Estate on the Rocks, but Real Estate Rockstars, correct?
Yeah. We have a great group. It's about 36,000 people, great agents. We share ideas. It's a place. It's like a big coffee shop where people come with problems, questions. They need referrals. It's like a nice little hangout. Yeah, I love our group. So
fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, we're. I believe I'm in there. I don't know if these 2 guys are in there, but we're definitely gonna try to hang out with you and align ourselves with you a little bit more because you're a very smart, articulate person here. So I appreciate everything that you're doing for the business and you're doing for agents coming in, and really appreciate your time more than anything. So for Real Estate on the Rocks, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. So Borino, any other parting words?
Just thanks for having me, guys, and thank you, guys. You're giving me 2 most important gifts you can give to somebody without even knowing it. You gave me your time and your attention. And I really much appreciated that I have a chance to kind of touch your life, maybe just a little bit, inspire just a little bit, because I remember days when my business was nowhere near to where I wanted it to be. And sometimes just listening a little bit or reading a little bit gave me that spark back. So I'm very grateful and humble that I had a chance to spend time with you guys.
Fantastic. Well, you definitely have inspired me, and that's pretty hard to do these days with so much content coming around, and you can't tell who's genuine, who's just. You're the real deal, man. So, Borino, once again, we appreciate it, and we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Take care.
I'm out.